I set up my station in the pediatrics ward, just like any other night. It was quiet, too quiet for a hospital. The fluorescent lights flickered above me, casting strange shadows on the walls. The smell of antiseptic was strong, mixing with my fatigue. I miss my mom, who used to tell me stories during long nights. That was why I worked here, to help others. That night, I walked down the empty hall, checking on the kids. Machines beeped quietly, creating a gentle rhythm. I thought I heard laughter in the distance. I shrugged it off. I was probably just tired. Then I saw her. A woman in a white dress stood at the end of the hall, near the playroom. At first, I figured she was a visitor. I approached her slowly. But when she turned around, she was gone, just like that. I blinked and looked back, but there was no sign of her. I shook my head, thinking I must have imagined it. As the nights went by, she appeared again, always near the pediatrics ward. Each time, my heart raced. One night, I noticed that after seeing her, patient charts showed up on my desk for kids I had never seen. Their names were strange, and the illnesses described were bizarre. I couldn't figure it out. It felt wrong. I tried to convince myself it was my imagination. Then I heard giggles again. It echoed, filling the empty space around me. A chill ran through me, but I brushed it off. I was tired. Still, something kept drawing me back. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was real. I found myself standing in front of the playroom. The laughter danced in the air again, tickling my ears. I felt cold, like the air turned to ice. I took a deep breath and walked towards the sound. As I rounded the corner, there she was, staring directly at me. "Why are you with them?" she asked, her voice soft. Her gaze felt heavy on me. I wanted to answer her, but a strange urge made me look behind me. I turned and saw nothing, just the empty hall stretching out behind me. When I looked back at her, she was still there, her expression unreadable. I felt my heart pound in my chest. What was happening? "Who are you?" I managed to stammer. She just blinked, and the air grew heavier around me. "Why are you with them?" she repeated, her tone more urgent now. A knot formed in my stomach. I didn't know what she meant. Before I could respond, she vanished, just like that. I felt my pulse quicken. I ran back to the nurse's station. My hands shook as I clicked through the patient charts. But they were all gone, just like her. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I felt like I was being watched. I've replayed that night over and over in my mind. Each time, I asked myself the same questions. Was she real? What did she mean? And most of all, why was she haunting me? I've never stopped thinking about what happened that night. The next night, I was back at the hospital, the familiar hum of fluorescent lights buzzing above me. I tried to focus on my work, reminding myself that I was here to help the kids. But my thoughts kept drifting back to her, this mysterious woman in white. What did she want from me? As I made my rounds, I noticed a lot of murmurs among the parents waiting in the common area. I approached them cautiously, wondering if they had seen her too. I felt a flutter of hope, but when I asked about the laughter I heard, they only looked at me quizzically, as though I had lost my mind. "I didn't hear anything," one mother said, shaking her head. "It's probably just the hospital playing tricks on you." I forced a smile, but her words made the knot in my stomach tighten. I wandered back to the pediatrics ward, the soft beeping of machines my only companion. I flipped through the charts again, each name blending into the next. But my attention was drawn to a new chart on my desk. I hadn't seen it before. That's when I saw it, the photo attached to the chart. A child with deep brown eyes and a sweet smile. But under the name, a date was written. It was tomorrow. Panic surged within me. Was this some kind of joke? Had I been handed a chart for a child who hadn't arrived yet? I flipped the page and froze. The details were scant, listing only a vague illness, possible emergency. I knelt in my chair, heart racing.
Why did this feel connected to her? My mind raced back to the woman in white. Was she somehow warning me? I glanced around, half expecting her to appear, but the room remained empty. Then I heard the laughter again. It was distant, ringing through the ward, unmistakably cheerful. The icy sensation washed over me all over again. I shot up, ready to follow it. This time I wasn't going to hesitate. I dashed into the hallway, searching for the source. The laughter echoed off the walls, leading me toward the playroom. But as I approached, the sounds shifted. It was no longer playful. It had taken on a darker tone, almost mocking. My heart pounded as I stood before the door. Was I ready for whatever waited inside? I hesitated for a moment, but my curiosity pushed me onward. I pushed the door open. Inside was darkness. The lights flickered, but there was no sign of children or the woman. I stepped inside, confusion mixing with dread. The laughter faded, swallowed by the silence, leaving me feeling exposed. Then someone whispered my name. It was barely audible, a soft breath that sent chills racing down my spine. I instinctively looked around, but I was still alone. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. The air felt thick, pressing against my chest. That's when I noticed something on the floor. A small toy, a teddy bear, half hidden in the shadows. I picked it up. It was worn, frayed at the edges, like it had been loved and forgotten. As I held it, the laughter returned, louder this time, echoing in the corners of my mind. My pulse quickened. The woman's question crossed my thoughts. Why are you with them? Suddenly, everything went dark. The lights flickered off, leaving me in pitch black, my breath shallow. I dropped the teddy bear, my heart racing. I felt the cold pressure of the room closing in around me, and panic set in. What was happening? What was this connection? I turned to leave, but the door slammed shut. I was not alone. The next chapter awaited, shrouded in mystery and shadows. I could only hope to unravel it before it consumed me. I slammed my palms against the door as I tried to push it open. It wouldn't budge. Panic clawed at my throat while shadows danced around me. My mind raced. What was going on? "Hello?" I called again, louder this time, hoping for a response. The only answer was silence. I could feel the air growing colder, more oppressive. That's when I noticed a flicker of light from the corner of my eye. A small lamp flickered on, casting a weak glow across the room. I squinted into the brightness and saw her, the woman from my dreams, standing at the far side, her white gown flowing around her like mist. I froze, staring at her. She looked just as beautiful and eerie as before. "Why are you here?" I blurted out, desperation seeping into my voice. She tilted her head, her face serene yet inscrutable. "You must help them," she said softly, her voice echoing, wrapping around my consciousness. "They are lost, like me." I shook my head, bewildered. "Help who? What do you want from me?" She stepped closer, and I instinctively backed away, my hands clammy against the wall. "You have a choice," she said, "but time is running out." Her eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a wave of sorrow wash over me. Images flickered in my mind, children with sad eyes, darkened hospital rooms, and that chart on my desk. The urgency suddenly hit me like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean? What's going to happen?" I asked, my voice trembling. Without answering, she reached out and touched my arm. A frigid shock coursed through me, filling me with a strange energy. My vision blurred, then sharpened. I was somewhere else entirely. I stood in a dim hospital hallway, surprisingly lively. Laughter echoed from a nearby room, the air feeling warm and inviting. But as I turned, I saw a glimpse of despair flash in a child's eyes through the glass window. I stepped closer, the handle of the door cool against my palm. I hesitated, but knew I needed to understand. I opened the door. Inside, a small boy sat alone, his blanket piled high around him. I felt a tug in my heart when I saw the teddy bear on his lap, the same one I had held. Suddenly, the laughter stopped, replaced by a haunting silence. I turned to the mysterious woman, but she was gone. "Where are you?" I mumbled, desperation creeping in. Then I heard it again. The laughter was back, but it was different now, filled with fear. I looked around, anxiety pulsing through me. I was back in the playroom, the lights flickering erratically. I slammed my eyes shut, trying to dismiss the panic rising within me. "Someone, please," I whispered into the empty room. "I need to help you." The lights went out again, plunging me into darkness. I felt someone brush past me, cold and invisible. It hovered close, the laughter now piercing and chaotic, swirling around me. I sprang towards the door, throwing it open. This time, I didn't stop. I dashed into the hallway, my heart pounding. I needed answers. I needed to find that boy. As I sprinted forward, I made a vow. I would find out what the woman wanted. I would uncover the truth before it was too late. I just hoped that I wasn't sacrificing too much to do it. I raced down the hallway, the sound of my footsteps echoing off the sterile white walls. Each corner I turned felt like I was running deeper into a shadowy maze. Desperation drove me. What had I just seen? That boy needed someone. I needed to help him. But how? The laughter faded, replaced by a sickening silence that gripped my stomach. I could barely think. The lights above flickered again, throwing shadows that twisted as I ran. I spotted a window at the end of the hallway and headed for it. Maybe I could get a better view of the rooms. As I reached the window, I pressed my face against the glass, light spilling in from the other side. The entire area felt different now. Filtered daylight gave it an eerie glow. I scanned the rooms, lined up next to each other, hoping to catch sight of the boy again. But nothing, just empty beds. Suddenly, a door creaked open behind me. I turned, heart racing, ready to confront whatever emerged. A nurse stepped out, her face pale and drawn. She rarely looked at me as she passed, but I noticed a name tag dangling from her uniform. "Diane, is that you?" I called out, remembering her from my shifts. There was something unsettling in her eyes, a distant look, as if she were trapped between worlds. She stopped, but didn't reply. Instead, her gaze drifted past me, unfocused and lost. My stomach twisted. "Are you okay? What's happening here?" "No," her voice trailed off, barely a whisper. Suddenly, recognition flickered in her expression. "You shouldn't be here. The children, they need help." A wave of dread washed over me. "What do you mean? Help how? Are they in danger?" In a moment of clarity, she stepped closer, her voice urgent. "You don't understand. They are tied to this place, and so is she." "Who?" I didn't want to feel this rising fear, but it was overwhelming. "The woman in white," she said, glancing nervously towards the darkness of the hallway. "If you don't act, they will be lost forever." Before I could respond, Diane turned and hurried back into the room she'd just left. I was left alone with the remnants of her warning ringing in my ears. Every instinct screamed for me to follow her, to demand more answers. But I hesitated, fear gripping me tight. What if the boy was one of those who would be lost? I took a deep breath and pressed on, deeper into the depths of the hospital. I braced myself as I turned the next corner and stepped into an area I had never seen before. The atmosphere shifted, not warmer, but tinged with the scent of decay. Then I heard it again, the laughter. This time it was unearthly, echoing just beyond my reach. I followed the sound, desperate to find the source. As I approached a set of double doors, my heart sank. They were marked with caution tape. "Keep out" scrawled across the yellowed strips. My gut told me this was where I would find the answers. That's when I saw it, a flicker of white movement beyond the doors. The woman. She was waiting for me. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging me into darkness once more. I could feel the tension in the air shift, and a low whisper brushed against my ear, cold and insistent. Help them before it's too late. I felt the weight of countless eyes on me, and panic surged within me. There was no turning back now. I pushed the doors open, plunging into the unknown. I stumbled into the room, my heart pounding loudly in my ears. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of antiseptic and something sweetly rotten. I blinked, trying to adjust to the sudden darkness, but there was no escape from the oppressive gloom. The flickering light above barely illuminated the room, revealing crumbling walls and dusty equipment that felt like remnants of a forgotten era. My eyes darted around, searching for the woman in white, but all I found was more shadows. The laughter had faded into silence, replaced by an unsettling stillness that made my skin crawl. I stepped deeper into the room, driven by a need to know more. The whisper echoed in my mind, help them before it's too late. Who was I supposed to help? The boy? The other children? My heart sank at the thought. I had to figure this out. Then, through the dark, I saw her again, a pale figure, standing perfectly still in the corner. She wore a long white dress that shimmered like moonlight, her hair cascading over her shoulders. But her face, it was obscured by shadow. "Who are you?" I croaked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Help them," she repeated, barely moving her lips. I felt her words wash over me like a cold wave. "They are trapped here. She is watching." "Who is watching?" I asked, instinctively taking a step backward. I was losing my grip on reality, the lines between the eerie and the real blurring dangerously. "The woman in white," she answered, her tone echoing the chilling warning I had already received. "Free them before she claims them all." I took a moment to process her words. The feeling of dread coiled in my gut. "What do you want me to do?" Her eyes flashed for a second, a glint of something almost human peeking through the darkness. "The door," she said, pointing towards another heavy door at the far side of the room. "You must find the key. Time is running out." Before I could respond, she vanished, slipping into nothingness like mist. I staggered in shock, adrenaline surging through me. My instinct was to flee, to escape whatever nightmare I had stumbled into, but I couldn't, not when children were involved. I approached the door she had indicated. It looked old and battered, seemingly untouched for years, with rusted hinges that creaked ominously. I placed my palm against the cold surface. I couldn't help but feel there was something important behind it. Suddenly, I heard a clatter behind me. I spun around, heart racing, but there was nothing, just shadows stretching across the walls. Then I heard another laugh, but this time it was low and mocking. Who was there? I turned back to the door. A chill ran down my spine, and I felt the weight of unseen eyes on me. I couldn't ignore the feeling of urgency any longer. There was a key somewhere, and I had to find it. But where? Just when my mind began to race with possibilities, the lights flickered once more, and the laughter crescendoed into a frenzied cackle. And then it stopped. A sharp silence followed, making the hairs on my neck stand on end. I took a shaky breath, my resolve hardening. I would find that key. Those children were counting on me. But as I turned to search the room, I realized I wasn't alone. Someone was there, just outside my field of vision. I could feel their presence, heavy and cold. Fear coursed through me again, but I had to push forward. I had to know what happened next. I turned slowly, almost expecting to see the woman in white standing there, beckoning me. Instead, I was met with an empty corner, shadows pooling in the darker recesses of the room. The oppressive silence pressed in around me again, thick and suffocating. I needed to shake off this surreal feeling, needed to focus. I glanced around the room for anything that resembled a key or even a clue. My eyes landed on a dilapidated cabinet against the far wall, its doors partially ajar, revealing some clutter inside. Maybe there was something useful in there. As I moved toward it, I suddenly felt a sharp gust of cold air sweep through the room, causing the hairs on my arms to stand up. I paused, scanning the shadows again. My anxiety spiked, a voice nagging that I wasn't alone. But I couldn't turn back now. I reached the cabinet, kneeling to peer inside. There were old medical supplies, crumpled papers, and something small and metallic glinting in the dim light. I fished it out and held it up. An ancient key. My heart raced as hope surged through me. "Is this it?" I muttered, looking around for any sign of the woman, but she was nowhere to be seen. I rose, clutching the key tightly, and headed back toward the door. But just as I approached, I heard a shuffling sound from the other side. "Who's there?" I called, my voice shaky but loud enough to pierce the silence. I pressed close to the door, my ear against the cool wood. I could hear muffled voices, children's voices. My pulse quickened. Were they really behind this door? Another laugh erupted nearby, this one high-pitched and giddy. My stomach twisted. It felt out of place, unsettling. I hesitated, hand trembling as I lifted the key to the lock. The laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling whisper that seemed to echo in the corners of my mind. "Open it," it urged, but the tone turned sinister, "or they'll be lost forever." I swallowed hard, dread curling like a dark cloud around me. I couldn't let them down. I had come this far. I inserted the key into the rusty lock, and my heart raced as I turned it. Would it open? Would I find those trapped children? With a sharp click, the lock released. The door creaked ominously as it swung open, revealing a pitch-black room beyond. I charged in, bracing for whatever awaited me. The air was thicker here, heavy with a sense of foreboding. Before I could gather my thoughts, the door slammed shut behind me, plunging everything into darkness. "Help us!" a chorus of tiny voices cried out, urgent and desperate. Panic surged through me. I flicked the light on my phone, casting a weak beam into the void. The light revealed ghostly shadows, small hands reaching towards me, eyes filled with terror. "Stay back!" I shouted, unease twisting my gut. But the shadows surged forward, and I stumbled back, heart racing as the oppressive laughter returned, echoing all around me. Then I heard it again, a familiar voice cutting through the chaos. Help them. I had to find a way to save them. But as I turned to find an escape route, I sensed a chilling presence behind me. Someone or something was watching, waiting. The woman in white loomed somewhere in the darkness, and I felt certain that whatever I did next would make all the difference. The darkness wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. I could hear the children's cries more clearly now, their fear palpable. "Please help us," they begged, their voices mixing with the eerie laughter that danced in the shadows. "Where are you?" I shouted, scanning the edges of the dark room. "I'm here to help." My voice echoed back, swallowed by the thick shadow. I had to think. The key I found felt warm in my pocket, almost alive against my skin. But what was it unlocking? The whisper reached me again, clearer this time. "You must face her. Only then will you see." A chill ran down my spine. The woman, did she have something to do with this? I remembered her haunting visage from my first encounter, that sad smile that sent shivers through my core. I had to stay focused. If she was the key to unlocking this nightmare, I had to find her. I took a deep breath and called out, "Show yourself!" The room fell silent for a heartbeat, the only sound now being the soft whimpering of the children. I felt a pull, a slight draft, leading me to the far corner where shadows seemed to writhe. I stepped towards the darkness, my phone light flickering against the walls. As I approached, I shivered, feeling the temperature drop even further. Then, from the inky blackness, a figure began to materialize. The woman in white appeared, her long hair cascading down, her eyes deep and sorrowful. "I've been waiting for you," she said, her voice almost a whisper. The laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling stillness. "You must choose." "Choose what?" I asked, bewildered. "Save them," she gestured toward the shadows, "but the cost will be high." I took a step back, heart racing. "What do you mean?" I felt trapped, like I was standing at a crossroads with unseen forces waiting eagerly for my decision. "There are always sacrifices where innocence is involved," she continued, the edges of her lips curling into a bitter smile. "To free them, you must give something dear to you." I forced myself to think through the haze of fear. "What do you want?" I asked cautiously. In that moment, I thought of everything I held close, my family, my friends, my own life. What was the price of redemption? "It's not simple, dear," she answered, her tone cool. "You'll face your past." Before I could respond, the sound of cracking echoed around us, like ice breaking underfoot. Panic surged in my chest. The laughter returned, and I felt a rush of pressure closing in on me. The shadows were reaching out again, small hands stretching into the light, desperate to escape. "Do it!" the voices cried, urging me forward. "We can't hold on much longer." I glanced back at the woman, searching her gaze for answers. Her expression was one of deep understanding, but I could see the urgency in her eyes. Time was running out. "I'll do it!" I shouted, a mix of fear and determination coursing through my veins. "I'll save them!" Suddenly, everything around me shifted. The air turned electric, and the laughter morphed into a cacophony of screams. I felt the floor tremble beneath me. That's when I saw it. A glint caught my eye from among the shadows, a small object lying on the ground. It shimmered with a familiar light. I didn't know what it was, but my instincts screamed that it was important, perhaps the very key to saving the children. But as I reached for it, something cold gripped my ankle. The shadows were alive, pulling me down. I had to make a choice: grab the object or fight against the growing darkness. "Help us!" the children begged again, their voices merging with my own fading heartbeats. I had to act, and fast. I reached for the glimmering object, ignoring the icy fingers clawing at my ankle. "No!" I shouted, my determination surging as I yanked the shimmering thing from the ground. I turned it over in my hand, a small glass pendant glowing faintly under my phone's light. It felt warm, almost as if it pulsed with energy. With a desperate surge, I tore my leg free from the shadow's grasp. I stumbled backward, clutching the pendant tightly, my heart racing. The laughter had faded to chilling silence, but I could still sense the shadows swirling in anticipation, as if waiting for my next move. "What do I do with this?" I queried, eyes darting back to the woman, who remained rooted in place, her gaze steady and searching. "Use it to confront your past," she replied, her voice echoing softly around the room. "Only then will you understand the sacrifice needed." The shadows drew closer, their whispers growing louder. I could hear distant echoes of past memories, images flashing before my eyes, each one twisted, pulling me deeper into confusion. I didn't know if I should trust the woman or the pendant in my hand. "Focus," she urged. "The children need you. You must remember." Suddenly, a memory broke through, a face I hadn't seen in years. My younger brother, lost to me long ago. I felt cold dread gripping my stomach. I had buried that day deep within, unable to confront the guilt that festered there. "No," I stammered, shaking my head. "Not him. I can't go back there." "You must," the woman insisted, stepping closer, her face now a mask of compassion. "The pendant will guide you, but first you need to truly confront the fear you've pushed away." Before I could speak, the shadows surged toward me, hands reaching from the darkness. "Please," they begged, morphing into the faces of the children, their eyes wide with terror, their mouths forming silent screams. They pulled me back toward the edge of the darkness. "Don't leave us!" The pendant in my hand grew warmer. I felt a surge of strength course through me. I had momentarily forgotten about my brother, but the connection was still alive, tethered to my heart. And now, as twisted as it was also my only.
"Okay," I said firmly, taking a steadying breath. "I'll face my past. Show me how." The air shifted, swirling around me with new urgency. The shadows hesitated, as if understanding the change in my resolve. The woman smiled gently, her form flickering with gratitude. "Place the pendant to your heart," she instructed. "Let it guide you into memory." I did as she said, clutching the pendant to my chest and closing my eyes. Warm light enveloped me, and I felt a pull, as if being drawn through a dark tunnel. I could still hear the children's cries, but also something else, my brother's laughter. Then everything went dark. In the void, images began to swirl around me, scenes from that fateful day. The sirens, the accident, his small hand slipping from mine. I gasped, the weight of it all crashing over me. I was faced with a choice, to remain in this darkness or to unlock the truth. Before I could fully process, a new sound echoed in the dark. A voice, harsh and mocking. "You think you can change the past? You're mistaken." I turned, heart pounding. Something was rising from the shadows, a figure forming from the darkness surrounding me. "What is this?" I whispered, fear rising again, stronger than before. The figure smiled, and I knew then that the real confrontation had just begun. I squinted against the darkness, trying to make sense of the figure taking shape before me. The shadows twisted around it, making sharp edges blur. Something about this silhouette felt wrong, like an old wound reopening. "Who are you?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. "I'm the part of you that you've tried to forget," it responded, voice dripping with malice. "You think you can confront your past? It's too late for that." Rage erupted in my chest. "I won't let you control me." I felt the pendant's warmth amplifying my defiance. It buzzed against my skin, urging me to fight. The figure laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "You naive child, how can you confront what you've run from for so long? You're just a scared little girl trapped in memories that haunt you." "Stop it!" I shouted. The shadows around us pulsed, desperate to consume my strength. Yet I felt the pendant grounding me. It was more than just an object, it was a part of me now. As I focused on the figure before me, clear visions of my brother surfaced. I saw him running ahead, laughing as we played in the yard. Then I caught a glimpse of our last moments together. The way his hand slipped from my grasp, the horrible screech of tires, and the shadow of something terrible looming over us. "Face it," the voice taunted. "You didn't save him. You failed." "No," I denied, clutching the pendant tighter. "I was just a kid. I didn't know." As tears threatened to spill, I realized something. This figure wasn't just a tormentor. It was my shame, my guilt taking form. I needed to confront it, not flee. "You're wrong," said, voice shaking but steady. "I can't change what happened, but I refuse to let you control me anymore." The figure faltered for a moment, its smirk wavering. "Do you think you can absolve yourself so easily? The sacrifice will always loom over you." "What sacrifice?" I demanded, feeling the pendant's heat spreading through me. "If I have to sacrifice anything, it'll be letting you go, letting go of my fears." With that declaration, I pressed the pendant to my chest. A wave of warmth rushed through me, illuminating the darkness surrounding the figure. Light spilled out, casting shapes of the children I had seen before, flickering memories filling the void. With every heartbeat, I felt the weight lifting.
The figure shrieked, trying to retreat into the shadows, but the light expanded, engulfing everything. "No!" it howled, but I smiled. I refused to be afraid. In that instant, the darkness shattered. I found myself standing in a field of sunlight, my brother laughing beside me. I could finally breathe, free from the chains of guilt that had held me captive for so long. But just as the bliss enveloped me, a chilling whisper slithered through the air, cutting through the warmth like ice. "You think this is over? You're still being watched." I turned, dread creeping back in, rippling through the moment of clarity. Something else was lurking in the shadows, mixing with the laughter of children. It wasn't finished yet. The darkness shifted around me, its presence palpable even in the radiant light. I felt an underlying tension, a sense of anticipation that made my skin crawl. The laughter of children faded to an eerie echo, like a distant memory twisted by time and fear. But I couldn't afford to be consumed by dread. I had made a choice, and I was determined to see it through. "You're not going to take them," I said firmly, the pendant still warm against my heart. I turned from the idyllic scene of my brother's laughter, setting my gaze towards the realm of shadows where the woman had first appeared. "What do you want?" I called out, forcing courage into my voice. From within the gloom, she emerged, her figure flickering like a candle in the wind, ethereal yet grounded by an undeniable certainty. "You saved them," she said softly, her tone layered with an enigmatic mix of relief and sorrow. "What do you mean?" I breathed, the air growing heavier with dread. "Who else is trapped?" She pointed into the shadows, her delicate finger indicating a group of figures blurred and indistinct. "They're tied to the fear. They linger until you confront the truth." Her gaze pierced through me, a fierce plea hiding beneath her tranquil exterior. "Which truth?" I asked, my heart racing. I had already faced my past, fought the manifestation of my guilt. What more awaited me in the darkness? The laughter of children returned, morphed now into whispers that taunting, beckoning me deeper. I saw flickers of movement ahead, the outline of a child, a flickering shadow. Of the boy who had haunted my nights. Was he still waiting? "Help them," she whispered again, her voice fading into the whispers of the wind. And without giving it a second thought, I stepped into the shadows, driven by a force greater than myself. As I crossed the threshold, the warmth of the pendant seemed a pulse, a lifeline tethering me to hope. I found myself in a dimly lit corridor where the air was thick with despair. "Where are you?" I called, my voice echoing off unseen walls. In response, the faint cries of children intensified. I ran towards the sound, fueled by a newfound determination. The corridor twisted and turned, an unsettling descent where shadows flicked at the periphery of my vision. And then I saw them, faces etched with anguish, eyes wide with desperation. "Please help us," came the chorus, a mournful plea that sent chills racing down my spine. They were gathered in a tight group, hands reaching toward me, faces mirroring the terror I had seen only moments before in my memories. "What do you need?" I yelled, heart pounding against my ribcage. I felt as if I were right on the edge of a precipice, with the abyss taunting me to leap. "You must face her," one child said, stepping forward, a small girl with big, pleading eyes. "She keeps us here." "Who?" I glanced around, but the shadows were too thick, the darkness almost a living entity. It whispered around me, seeking to draw me back into confusion. "The woman in white," another voice piped up, voice trembling. "She feeds on fear. It keeps us trapped here." So she was still present. How could I confront a presence that thrived on those fears when I had only just faced my own? "Listen to me," I urged, addressing the children, desperation clawing at my heart. "I don't know if I can." The girl stepped closer, determination glinting in her wide eyes. "You can. You already have. The pendant shows you because you can see. The weight of their gazes converged upon me, a silent storm of hope and terror wrapped in a fragile thread. But deep down, I felt it, the truth that was nestled against my heart, held close by the pendant. Now it was time to embrace it. "I'll do it," I said, forcing the fear from my voice. "I'll confront her." As I braced myself, the shadows thickened, twisting around me and hanging heavy in the air. With a pounding heart, I called out, "You can't keep them here!" A low chuckle resonated from the depths, and the darkness coiled tighter around me like a serpent. The woman appeared, clarity sharpening the edges of her form. "You think you have the power?" she taunted, her voice echoing. "You're but a child, still clinging to the remnants of hope." "What do you want from me?" I shouted, refusing to back down. "I won't let you take them any longer." The shadows surged forward, and I clutched the pendant to my heart. It throbbed with warmth, a beacon.
In the swirling darkness, "You feed on fear," I declared, recalling the strength I had felt moments before. "But I'm done being afraid." The woman stepped closer, her eyes glistening like shards of ice. "Then choose. Who will you save?" "Choose?" I felt a tremor run through me, the weight of her question hanging over my heart. "I choose to save all of them." The shadows recoiled as if struck by light, a furious howl reverberating in the air. The laughter erupted into chaos, a cacophony that sent chills racing through my body. I drew upon every memory, every joy, every heartbreak that the pendant had shown me, channeling it into the air around me. "Let them go," I commanded, and the light brightened, radiant and unyielding, cutting through the darkness. The shadows shrieked, hatred clawing at the edges of my mind. But I was no longer alone. I felt the children's energy rallying around me, feeding off my courage. One by one, I caught glimpses of their faces, smiles breaking through the despair. "Thank you," they cried, voices melding into a beautiful symphony, vibrant against the darkness. And in that moment, the woman faltered, her frail confidence cracking. "No!" she screamed, a crescendo of darkness spiraling around her. But I pressed on. "You can't hold them. We are stronger together." With a final connection, the pendant flared bright, drawing power from the unity around me, and I released it with all my might. Light erupted, engulfing everything, shattering the shadows like glass. The children's laughter rang like bells, dancing through the air like a long-forgotten melody. I felt their warmth surge around me, wrapping me in love, in safety. And then, as suddenly as it began, the tumult stilled. I stood alone in the hospital, the sterile air soothed by morning light filtering through the tall windows. The sounds of distant sirens echoed around me, filling an otherwise empty space. I blinked and took a staggering breath. I was back. Somehow I had returned to the world I had fought to escape. But the weight of the night lingered. I peered around the pediatrics ward, and the familiar faces of children greeted me. Yet in the corner of my eye, I still sensed the remnants of darkness, a flicker of shadow that refused to entirely disappear. Had I really saved them, or merely delayed the inevitable? Questions swirled unanswered, like the remnants of a dream, an echo that wouldn't go away. I could still hear faint laughter, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to uncover, more to fight against. Perhaps the woman in white wasn't truly gone, lingering beyond the edges of the light. As I stepped into the hallway, I glanced back one last time, heart heavy but strangely hopeful. I had faced the shadows, but I knew the journey wasn't over. It had merely begun, and I couldn't escape the feeling that I would have to confront the darkness again, sooner than I'd hoped.